Hi there, thanks for joining me today. I have a little flip through. I think it's the first of 2024 for me. That's how far behind I am. It's the end of February and I'm finally doing my first flip through of the year. But better late than never. And I think she's a beauty, so I think she was well worth waiting for. I have affectionately called her Florence, although the original title for this book was The Complete Works of Gautier, Volume 4. So this book was originally published in 1910, and I'll show you when we get inside. I have saved the original front page so that you can see for yourself that this old book was indeed published 114 years ago. Let's do the measurements first. So she's about 5.5 inches by about 8.5 inches, and then her spine, I have a lot of dust on my desk. I thought I had dusted it all. I guess I should have got my husband's tiny little Dyson vacuum cleaner and done my desk first, so I apologize. I refurbished the spine because it was literally falling apart. So it appears to be, she's about 1 3/4 inches wide, the spine. So I wanted to be able to save the original spine. It was very pretty, but it was literally crumbling apart. So the pieces that I could save, I did. For example, this little piece was in the book, and somewhere else, I think in here, I've saved another piece. And otherwise, the spine was not salvageable, and although it looks old, this is all completely being recreated by me. And I added some fleur-de-lis down the spine, and that actually will complement, you'll see in the interior where I've used some of the original text block, there are fleur-de-lis on all the chapter headings. So I thought that those went together nicely. And I added some banding at the top and at the bottom, and that really feels nice. There's the headers and footers inside here are actually from a different book that was from the 1880s, but I saved them, and I'm glad I did because they really look nice inside Florence. And you'll see here she has 9 signatures, and last count I did, she has 264 bound pages, but there are oodles and oodles of extra pages because Florence has a lot of tuck spots in her, so I just fill the tuck spots with extra papers for you. And she is also a hidden hollowback spine, so that means, if you're new to it, that she lies nice and flat when you want to write in her. And as ever, my journals, I tend to create my journals more for people who wish to fill a journal, if they wish, and write in them, or collage, or do whatever they wish to do. I don't tend to fill each and every page. I leave that up to you. So if you want to fill each and every page, I sure hope you do. I think you'd have a lot of fun with Florence. There tends to be a little bit of a photography or camera or travel, tiny little under theme, but it's not overwhelming. So it wouldn't, don't think, oh, I don't take pictures, this isn't for me. No, it's just subtle. It's just sort of there. It was what caught my eye when I was thinking, what should go in here? And I have a book on the history of photography, and it's loaded with beautiful old pictures of old cameras and old pictures, which is where I got the cover of this beautiful little girl who ended up being called Florence. This book plate actually, I believe, was from the drawer of a cabinet. And I happen to write Florence on the label. But if you don't want to name this book Florence and you have your own title for it, that slides out easy. Flip it over and put your own title on it. Same with on the back. Because it was the history of photography, they included the negative for the picture of her. And I just thought I wanted to have a little artistic fun with how I put the negative on the back. And it's almost like a little, what is it? What do they call it? Punk grunge, industrial punk? I'm not sure. There's just wires and holes and grommets, and I really love the way that turned out. It's almost as if Florence has an alter ego, and she isn't necessarily evil. We all have a side that's we don't necessarily show everyone, and I feel like maybe Florence does too. And just a few little stickers here, and again, slight little travel. I mean, if it's I really used most of the pages from a chapter called Travels in Italy. And so that also was always sort of sticking in the back of my mind in just subtle ways again. You'll see when we go through it. So there's a little baggage tag there. And then I left this blank. That's for you to fill in as you see fit. This is cotton, a thick, rough, I'm not sure the name of this kind of fabric, but I did this with a permanent marker. So if you felt that you wanted to continue being artsy with a permanent marker, and that's something you want to do, I don't see why you couldn't. So let's get started going through here. I'm not sure if I mentioned she has 9 signatures. So with varying pages in the signature of varying sizes. I really love, as you can see by this gorgeous profile here, I love an all sorts book. I like not knowing what to expect with every page turn, that not everything is too matchy. I work with all repurposed papers and ribbons and laces, and wherever possible. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes things are just impossible to find repurposed, like bulb pins or sometimes eyelets. In my case, I've been lucky with finding eyelets through repurposed sources. But when you see little charms, these are usually from necklaces I've taken apart. Well, we'll talk about it when we go through it. So again, this old camera is from that book of photography that I have, and I made it into a Dutch door. And the back is sort of a tip of the hat homage to the old photograph books that were in black that our grandparents used to use. And this little picture here of this sweet little, I think it's a little girl. Sometimes little boys wore outfits like that back in the day. And that little picture was really that small. I got a photo album while antiquing once, and it was full. The person who previously owned it had dated them all, and they were all from the 1920s and 30s. And those really are the corners from the picture that held it in the book. And then I've added a few little stickers here. This is from the photography book here. And then up here I wrote, that's my handwriting, 1910. So in case you want to know off the top of your head, how old's this book again? It was published in 1910, but the first page is in here. Just to show you that this is a tuck spot, I have included, this is genuine touristy ephemera, and it even says Valentine's View Specialties. And then there's if you open it up, and this came in from some generous person who sent me or gave me happy mail. or happy gifts, and it's just a accordion of touristy photos on both sides. And I just, first of all, it reminded me of travel, and I also liked that I managed to finish Florence in February. Wow, that's alliteration there. And it mentions Valentine's Day. So her tuck spots on the front, and there's one on the back, were made from a divider card. So I used the letter F for Florence. But you can always cover that up with a sticker. If F's not your thing, cover it up. That's the beauty of junk journals. Make them your own. Here's one of the, it had several front pages, the original text block, so I chose this one instead. I rather liked it. And you can actually journal on this if you want, or collage on it. And I just added a bit of lace, and then you can see this beautiful golden grass paper underneath. And again, I'll be pointing it out frequently because I'm very repetitive. Tons of room for journaling. This is a book I have on these botanical kind of sample books. It's a reprint, but it's so pretty, and it looks nice with the grass paper. So, but it's not old. Again, this is a book that's a reprint of old Victorian architectural drawings, and I rather liked that. I've done a lot of sewing with black thread for a little continuity and a tip of the hat to the black corners and the black spine that Florence at one time had. So I leave the threads long. You can trim them if you like. I've knotted them all off. So just trim them really close, but not right quite through if you're not a long thread kind of person. A little bit of tea-dyed Beatrix Potter, some steno paper. This is one of my kind of paper holders, uptucks, that I like because you can move them wherever you like. And they can hold papers just as easily as a paper clip does. And there's one on either side. And again, you can see how easily papers tuck underneath. That can go on the side of the book if you like. They look really pretty. I like to make them purposefully crooked because I think it adds to the character of the profile of the front of the book when the book is upright. And of course, a little Edith Holden. A junk journal just doesn't seem like a junk journal without a bit of Edith, does it? Here is, I'm not even sure, I think that was from a box of photo slides that I found. And so I just sewed around it and made a tuck spot out of it. And this, I believe, came from, I received a complimentary sample box way back when from your creative studio, and I think that's where I got this from. I can't recall. It wasn't aged enough for my liking, so I aged it a bit more. I did a little stamping underneath, so if you pull it out, there's still something fun to look at. And it hangs out over the edge. There's a little botanical card there. I think that's a little Tim Holtzy thing there. People gift me, are very generous and gift me things. But otherwise, as you can tell by these pages, I find things at thrift stores and try my best to make sure that my junk journals indeed are junk, or mostly junk. I'd say about 95% junk. It's a fun challenge, and I think it stays true to the term junk journal rather than a faux, like created to look like it's old, which is also fun too. I don't like to offend anyone because artists are artists, and I'm fully supportive of artists. So as we go through, again, kind of fun always to have an all black page. And this is a little tiny piece of a vintage measuring tape, sewing measuring tape. Little pocket here with some gold lace hanging out the bottom. It's fun to hang lace out the bottom because it doesn't interfere if you want to be able to put your book upright on a bookshelf when you're done. And this came in some Happy Mail. I love it. It says Paris on it, and it's just the 5 of diamonds playing card. But you can put whatever you like in your pockets if this book becomes yours. Another pocket. I used up a lot of stuff. I was determined that the next few All Sorts books that I'll be making, I'm going to try my best to use up stuff that didn't make it into other journals. For example, this pocket was created for another journal I made, and it was just leftover collaging. So I sewed around the edge to fortify it, and I made a tuck spot. This page, I believe, came from a copy of Wind in the Willows that I made a journal out of and didn't end up using this page. So I just folded it and tucked it in there, but the back is blank and can be journaled on. This is from a book I have on maps of different areas of London, England. I look for empty journal books at thrift stores. A lot of people will write 1 or 2 pages thinking they're going to start keeping a journal. Then they don't. They tear out their personal pages and donate the rest of the book. And I love finding those, especially if they have sewn in signatures that I can snip the threads. And there voila, you've got a ready-made folio. So I added numbers to the top. Those numbers, they aren't in any particular order, and I did those numbers just for fun. This is a tea-dyed page out of a guest book with a little bit of sari silk tab sewn onto it and some cotton resume paper. I do a 6-hole running stitch when I sew my text box together. Not a whole lot of tea-dyed paper in here. I would say about 1/3 tea-dyed, and the rest I'm starting to embrace leaving pages as they are for the fun of it. This was a vintage card. I think it was either a sympathy card or a get well soon card. And I was able to, it was one of those old vintage ones that were folds of 4. So I was able to rip off the pages that had the Get Well Better or Deepest Sympathy and made it into extra journaling space and just did some rough tearing, a bit of inking, and I think it made a really pretty addition to what would normally be a plain page with some sewing, some Shinuki knot tying. So glad that Shinuki, I'm pretty sure Shinuki thought of it. She's certainly the first one that I ever saw. I believe her name actually is Shania. She's got a terrific channel. If you don't watch it, go over and find it. It's called Shinuki Arts. And she's full of great ideas. And these knots, oh, I love them. A little bulb pin with this was an earring, and it's a nice gold shade again that matches the book. I did quite a bit of stenciling in this book on the tea-dyed papers that were legal size, and this is just from another book. I saved pages that I think look interesting that have room for journaling, so this was the page that had the list of illustrations. This little picture that I I used my Sizzix, and but turned out she was appropriate because it says 1910 down there, and again, that's the year this book was published. I used up what was left of some of the marble paper, and I was able to use the end papers that were from this side of the book for the front and the back. Can't remember if I told you that, but if it's the second time, I apologize. Lots of tip outs because I used lots of legal sized paper. This is some Tim Holtz fabric tape, which is kind of cool. And again, another little dangly made from cutting apart necklaces that I find at thrift stores onto a bulb pin. This is from a blank receipt book that was from the 1940s, and a tea-dyed page out of a diary. So again, odd shapes really appeal to me. I like the profile that it gives and the character it gives to a book. This is from a book I have called The Book of Knowledge. It's the best I could get for date-wise is it's from the 1940s. A little bit of ribbon or seam binding, and again some sewing and wrinkling on it. Nice big spread there for you to have fun with. I liked this. I noticed it at the last minute after it was already in the book. That's the kind of quirkiness in me. I love where it says Dance of Death here, and I think that's kind of cool. And I like that it says Daniel. That's my husband's name. So let's move along here. Otherwise I could be here forever. This book has so many little ins and outs. This is my little tip of the hat to Anna, made by Granath. She does these. I believe she's the first one I saw doing this, but I'm not sure. Anyhow, I always give her credit because she's the one I learned it from. That's actually Edith Holden there. That was a leftover from when I made a journal from out of the Edwardian Lady. And so I wanted to use her up. She's lovely and pretty. And then I made a little peekaboo hole. The hole looked a little plain, so I hope you don't mind. I doodled in your book. And I just got out my brown marker, my little brown Sharpie, and just drew a little frame around her. And I rather like the look of that, so hope you don't mind. I doodled in your book. This is what cameras looked like when I was a teenager. And again, it came out of that book on the history of photography. So this is the chapter on Milan. But this is a card. I have a box full of cards on walking tours of Paris. So I just thought that was kind of cool. I aged it because it actually looked brand new. And then I added some tea-dyed steno paper to the back so that you can journal on it. And that, again, original page from the book. And here's what I meant when I said each page has fleur-de-lis on the titles. On this page, I've just got a little page out of a book I have on that journal by Pepys. And then a little tuck spot made from, I'm getting to the point where I have just little bits and pieces from books that were going to go into journals, that didn't get journals, that didn't get in and got put away into boxes. And I very quickly started to lose track of if it's old or not, or whether I made it look old. So, and again, little journaling spot. I believe that also came from an envelope of Tim Holtzy things. This needed reinforcing on the fold, so I used faux cellophane tape. This was a book of wildflowers from 1940, and I think they're just darling, delicate little wildflowers. Some more ribbon here. I like when they stick out the bottom, and the green is a little tip of the hat. There's a slight bit of green in the marbled paper. I don't know if the camera picks it up, but certainly the new owner will notice it. This is a little tip of the hat to that Dance of Death, because you used to be able to order your gravestones out of Eaton's, Sears catalogs. And so I found this one, and I rather liked that because that is William, it says William Brown on it, and that was my granddad's name. So, hi, Granddad. A little bit of Granddad in there. He was born in 1896. So, came here when he was 14 and never saw his mother and sisters ever again. But his brother was already here, and he lived with his aunt and uncle, and he had a good life in Canada. More of the wildflowers. This is just the top of a steno book that I used as a stencil. It's kind of fun. The other side of the shorter peeps and a little tab at the top of the page with some hand crocheted lace that I tea dyed. I'm going to come back a bit. There we go. That's a little better. Then I can stop. I should have done that sooner. A little more stenciling. This is just a little booklet that I made with some odds and ends of papers and some vintage brads and a gold. You don't see these very often. A gold colored paper clip. So I just put that in there. Some old ledger paper. This is a little tip of the hat to Nancy from Wishes and Weeds. She always comes up with good ideas on fussy cutting vintage, beautiful vintage cards, greeting cards that maybe the card itself isn't something you'd want in a journal. Maybe it's a sympathy card, or again, I find a lot of get well soon cards. People don't send those anymore because they'll actually either visit or phone or text. And I just thought that rose was lovely, so I fussy cut that rose and put it on there. And there's even some sparkles on it. I don't know if it's showing up, but it's pretty. This is from a 1940s Pittman shorthand book. And then I just tucked an old picture from another old book in there, and you can journal on the back. And this is a library catalog card. And this is the last of my beautiful little lace doily that I've loved dearly, that had the little ladies around the edge, little profiles. If you can see closely, there's a couple of little ladies on there, and I have no more anymore. Florence got the last of them. Another tip out here, I tore that myself just for interest's sake. She's fussy cut out of an 1888 Girls' Own Annual. I made a tab here for no particular reason, but I used one of the pages from the chapters on Florence. There was chapters on several different cities in Italy. This one has Milan on the other side. And then there are several of these folios in the book, and I saved them as is. I could tell that the book had never ever been read because the publisher made an error in several of the folios and didn't cut the pages apart properly. But they make really great tuck spots. So in this case, this is where I put the important information from the first page, the original first page of the text block, and that's where you can see that it's from 1910. So I saved it. I just didn't particularly think the colors matched what I was doing with this book, but I still wanted to keep it because there's the proof of how old this book is. So I tucked it in there, and then I sewed in an envelope here and tucked in another old page. I just save fun old pages that are in the backs of books that have since gone on to become junk journals, but you just can't use the whole book when you make a junk journal, and you end up with lots of extra pages. And then in behind is also a tuck spot, and I made a journaling card from a book I have on Renaissance art. And then of course all of my journals go home with a Two Nanas bookmark, so that I tucked that there. Out of a stamp book, Great Britain and Greece. This is really old lace. I like though that it's nice and thin and not too bulky. This is the other side of part of that greeting card. I just thought it was so pretty. I thought I was going to put it in my recycling box, and I thought, oh, I'm going to glue that back into the journal. So I did. This was a gift from someone, and she messaged me and said, I found a really pretty old book and I think you'd like it. Would you like it? And she mailed it to me, and it's beautiful. So look how pretty that is. And I love that little bumblebee, the little bee going for the pansies. So that is a thank you to the generosity of people. Again, another one of those tuck spots because the bottom didn't get cut open. And I've put in some tea-dyed paper and put a really faint old stamp of an old camera down there. Pardon me. And sewed on some old lace there. This is just a picture, again, out of another book. Henry VII Chapel in Westminster Abbey, but you can journal on the back. And there's a little rusty clip with some tea-dyed seam binding tied onto the top of it there. And more stenciling. Another tuck spot, thanks to the publisher who didn't cut open the pages, and a little tag of lace. And inside I've just saved a page out of a magazine that Nancy gave me from 1904, McClure's magazine, and it just has some interesting ads on it. And so I thought maybe Florence saved that for a reason. So that's from 1904. So even that's 120 years old. This is from a reprint of an Eaton's catalog. And beautiful nightgowns for you to purchase. Mozart music from a book from 1957. Lots of children's composition books I made use of. Another one of those tuck pages. So inside here is some handmade paper that has grass and leaves and actual botanical things used when making the paper. So I tucked that in there. This little tuck spot is just some bluebirds that I liked, so I created a collage with this ribbon sewn here, and I can't leave tuck spots empty, so there is a Rolodex card for you to have fun with. A little cloth tab here and a little bit of lace that, again, using things up. Another one of those folios that didn't get the bottom. I made use of every single one I found, and inside is a recipe card from a strange recipe box that I found once thrifting, and that was on the inside of the card that I fussy cut of the roses that we looked at back there. I thought those were just as pretty, so just for something different I tore around the edge and put it on there. Now in this one I put a little peekaboo, and you'll see in there, there's a lady in there. And I believe she came out of a book on the history of Toronto, I think. Again, I just pulled it out of my box of, it was going in another journal and it didn't end up in it, and now it's in Florence. I finished this yesterday, this little whale tail tab. Yesterday, Nancy used the term rats in her video, and she always giggles because I say rats a lot. And so that's a tip of the hat to Nancy saying rats in her video yesterday. And on the other side it says pleasant. Nothing like a good word snippet. Some tea-dyed butterfly pages out of a butterfly book, and I chose to join them together with fabric and use the nice straight side and leave that rough side from when I had to tear it out of the book as the edge, just for interest's sake. This is from a reckoner, which is what they used before we had electronic calculators, and it's from 1916. This page is from a book from 1879 on grammar. And I love it because it has the one of the original owner's own notes still in it. So that makes it kind of cool. I guess if you don't like that sort of thing, you can erase those. But I love the fact that perhaps those notes are from 1879. That's pretty cool. Another tuck spot, thanks to the publisher. And with this one, again, another camera stamp on some of that beautiful gold grass paper that was gifted to me. Little tuck spot, borrowed ancestors from a book. Can't remember which one. And then this is a holy card from a Ukrainian church in Niagara Falls, Canada. And I just thought she was lovely, and she was my favorite colors. I love putting mustardy yellows with beautiful brick red, so I thought she was pretty. So she's actually on the actual chapter that was named Florence from Travels in Italy. And it's another tuck spot, and inside is just some little tea-dyed note paper. This page is from a book from 1897 on running a proper household, and this is from the chapter on the rules of etiquette. So helpful hints on good behavior at all times and in all places. So that will help you too. A little tea-dyed page from The Story of Miss Moppet by Beatrix Potter. And then this is everything gets saved. It's from out of a notebook, and I purposefully sewed it in crooked because I wanted that corner to stick up the top and add to the character of the top profile of this book. And then some more wrinkly ribbon with a bit of, I believe that's just washi tape there, but I thought it looked cool, and some Shinuki sewing knots there. There's little Miss Moppet. I've never read that one. Another tuck spot. Let's see what's in this one. This dashing fellow is in there, and more journaling space for you and more tuckable space for you. Didn't waste any of the marbled paper. It was so pretty. And then on this final page, I sewed some lace along the edge, did some stenciling, and then again I made use of that page, the cardstock for the file folder dividers. And I love how it must have had a bar that held them in place at the bottom of the drawer, and it makes terrific tabs to stick out the sides of books. And I made a little charm out of part of the spine that was still in good condition, and hopefully that will last a while for you. I can't make promises. It was trying to crumble apart, but I used a really strong glue, and we'll see. And then in here is a vintage postcard from Gloucester Cathedral in England, and this is just a photo out of a book of Dowsland Grange. I have a feeling this is also from the Edwardian Lady. And then I've just added some paper on the back for journaling. And then this is my usual little signature sticker that I put in my books with my signature, CABC. And it says 2024 there. And we come to the end of Florence. And that's how long it takes, 38 minutes to go page by page through a 264 page journal. It may have taken me a while to get her done, but it was well worth it. She almost went in the garbage. I almost thought this book just wasn't even worth bothering with, and turns out she was well worth bothering with. I really think that this journal turned out to be more than I even imagined. She's just lovely and has so much character. So she'll be available in my Etsy shop a little later today. Today is Sunday, February... Oh, I'm not sure. I'm going to find out for you. Sunday, February 25th. My goodness, time flies. So she will be, Florence will be available with more details listed in the listing in my Etsy shop. The link is below. Later today, the approximate time, it all depends on Etsy. Sometimes they're fast getting it on their site, and sometimes for whatever reason, I don't know, they take a while. If you think you're looking for her, the only advice I can give you is Etsy's pages don't automatically refresh themselves. So keep clicking on refresh if you're thinking, why is this not showing up? It could be that it hasn't refreshed itself. It's just something to keep tucked in the back of your mind. If you did happen to be thinking about maybe bringing Florence to your house. So, and she will be available with free shipping within North America. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this little flip through of this lovely little lady, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating her. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to get back to work now on experiment number 3 because I have still a stack of baskets in the corner of my my book room that need attending to. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.